The lower orchard today, collecting some scions, some scion wood for exchanges, and I'm at the Spigold tree. This is a great tree. If you like a large, sweet apple with a little bit of tang to it, the Spigold, a cross between a Northern Spy and a Gold Delicious, it's a great eating apple. It's not as crisp as you know, Honey Crisp or a harder apple, unless you pick it just on one side of ripeness. But I really love this apple for a fresh eating apple. I'm going to take the vinyl wrap off the trunk. I found you need to do this because codling moths like to hide in there. So I'm going to remove this. Right there, and I have a crack in the tree this year. Notice this crack. I don't know if that's from sun scald, but it happened just this winter, I believe, from about a foot off the ground up to the first limb. Any comments on that? If you have an idea what it might be, I'd appreciate it. The Spigold tree is another one of those trees that it doesn't like to form a center leader. When it's young, it'll have a center leader, but as it gets older, it likes to spread out. So if you can see that back limb there, that back limb was the central leader at one point, and now it's pointing directly away from me. Get from this side of the tree and you can see it. It bent over with its first apple load, pulling the whole tree with it somewhat, and then broke off up here where the limb now goes away from us. But that used to be the central leader. So most trees, or at least a lot of apple trees, like to go horizontal once they get mature, which is a good thing. It's a lot easier to pick apples when the limbs are more horizontal. The Spigold tree is also one of those apples which make a great cider all by themselves. If that's all you have is Spigold. Big and juicy and sweet with a little bit of a tang to it also, so it makes a great cider. I've made a cider with mostly just this tree and the golden russet, and it was excellent. And that's what you can expect for a growth habit on a Spigold. Once it reaches about 5 or 6 years old and has its first good load of apples, it will bend down. So what I do is I would typically crown raise a tree, that is, start the limbs rather high. In this orchard it's fenced in, so I left it low. I have the first limb about 30 inches off the ground. And that's a little bit low now as it's bent down. It's a real head banger for a lawnmower, but I like the shape of it, so I'm keeping it. Now the Spigold will set, it's one of those trees that will set way more spurs than it needs for a good crop, and it will overcrop. Even with an overcrop, the apples tend to be pretty large though. So it doesn't get really small apples when you overcrop them. What it does is it makes so many apples and they're so big that they break branches. So you have to thin them for that case. Now I've already thinned this branch once. You notice the spurs here. I've taken off half the spurs already. Most of those that were pointing straight up and straight down. So this limb here is fairly clean relative to this one here, which I haven't reached up to yet. These spurs, let me get a better shot of this. Maybe from this you can see from the tip of the branch, especially near the end. When a tree starts maturing, it gets very little growth at the tip. That's only about a couple inches of growth there at the tip, and it gets very spiny or very branchy near the tip. So its growth has slowed down. I'm going to take about 2/3 of these small branches, these spurs off, all the way up this branch to that vertical branch there, and then we'll look at it again. Wish I had somebody to hold my camera for me. So let's do the math on a spur tree like this. Let me get a good steady limb. Okay, on this limb we have, out of the tip, I'm going to count the fruit buds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19 on a limb 4 inches long. 19 buds. Each bud, let's call it 20, round it off to 20. Each bud will have 5 blossoms. So that's 100 apples possible on this limb. Way too many. I need about 6 apples on this limb. So there's no problem with taking off some of these spurs. And I probably removed some of them already, but any of the downward spurs or the straight up, the spurs going up, you get a large apple on that, it will tend to bend it over and break the spur off anyway. So I'm going to take off the vertical spurs up and down, and also if I shorten the limb back, take about 6-8 inches off the limb down here. Most of the apples I want produced up here where it's stronger. If they get produced on the tip, they're going to bend way down. Maybe I can do this by hand right here. There, much better. And up here. It's hard to prune and look at the same time.